Hi friends, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello and welcome to today's video. So today's video is one that I'm actually really excited about, mostly because it's been like over a year in the making. Over a year ago, a creator by the name of Brie Noble reached out to me on Instagram and it basically sort of pitched me this idea of doing a video about the Kardashians together. And just at the time, it wasn't like the best time to do the video, but I circled back earlier this year and we were actually going to do this collab during Glowmas, but things got kind of crazy. So we pushed it to now, but it's finally happening. And I first just want to say a huge thank you to Brie. She's been incredible throughout this entire process. Wonderful person who creates wonderful content. And I'm really excited that she agreed to do this video with me. But today we are going to be unpacking some stuff to do with the Kardashians, who I think are just a very fascinating cultural phenomenon. Like, I think the Kardashians are really interesting. And I also think they're very polarizing people. I feel like you either really love the Kardashians or really hate them. And sort of the idea that we had for this video that we were going to be doing together is that Brie was going to be focusing much more on sort of the problematic things that the Kardashians have done, like just sort of the scandals that they've had more in their personal lives, the damage that that's had on a lot of different communities and a lot of different people. And my sort of perspective from my side of the video is going to be talking about Kardashian sort of scams from the perspective of their business practices. I think when you combine the two together, it's very interesting because obviously whether you love or hate the Kardashians have a major impact on pretty much everything that they're doing. I think what's really interesting is the Kardashians are sort of known for having a bunch of different businesses and doing a lot of different businesses. And what's super fascinating to me is that most of the time they're seen as very successful business people. Like, I think that's how they're often very portrayed. Like, their companies sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of them are billionaires, like Kim and Kylie are like literal billionaires. Well, Kylie might be a fake billionaire, but either way, I think what a lot of people don't realize is there are a lot of businesses that the Kardashians have created and been a part of that have been terrible, that have had scandals surrounding them, that have just been like awful in general. And I think it would be really interesting to look into all of those different businesses, talk about what was successful, what wasn't, and just sort of break down some of the actual literal scams that the Kardashians have produced. Today we're going to go through point by point for each Kardashian/Jenner sister and just kind of talk about the different businesses that they've created. And then we're also going to talk about some of the ones that they've created as a collective with a K. Sorry. We're going to look at all of the ones that sort of were done with them as a collective as well, because they have actually launched a bunch of stuff as just sisters. Particularly Kendall and Kylie have launched a bunch of their own stuff, as have Kourtney, Khloe, and Kim. So yeah, if you're interested in this video, let's jump into it. And also make sure that after you watch this video or before, whichever you prefer, to go check out Brie's video. I'm going to have it linked in the description down below. I cannot wait to hear her commentary on this situation. I feel like she has so much to say and so much to talk about. And I'm really happy and grateful that she was willing to do this video with me. So yeah, I'm really excited. Go check her out down below and let's jump into the video. So the first Kardashian Jenner I want to talk about is actually not one of the sisters, and that is Kris Jenner. Now, Kris Jenner hasn't had the same sort of amount of businesses as her children have had, nor has she had the same amount of success with some of her business ventures. However, she's basically responsible for all of her children's success. She is the manager of all 6 of them, takes 10%. And also most of the big business mistakes are kind of on her, like a little bit. They're on the sisters too. But like, she definitely made a lot of questionable business choices and kind of made deals for her children that were obviously not the best. We're gonna get into the Kardashian credit card in a minute and you'll see what I'm talking about. But Kris Jenner also has a brand called Safely that she actually started with Chrissy Teigen, which is super interesting. I know Chrissy Teigen is like a friend of the Kardashians, but Chrissy Teigen was actually pushed out of this brand after a lot of stuff came out about her literally bullying a child when she was 25 years old on Twitter. So that's just Kris Jenner's brand. Chrissy Teigen is nowhere to be found on like the marketing or anything like that, but the brand is called Safely. It's basically just cleaning supplies, laundry soaps, dish soaps, counter cleaner. The whole point of the brand is that it's safe. So it's called Safely. There's no like harsh chemicals or, you know, whatever is in cleaning products that's bad for you. I haven't really heard too much about this brand. I actually didn't even know of its existence until I started looking into research for this video. But Kris Jenner has done that. And one of her other more famous business ventures that was a complete flop was that she actually did a talk show for a short period of time. The show aired in 2013 and was just called Kris. And it only lasted 10 episodes. It got canceled pretty shortly after. It was actually really bad. I watched a couple of episodes or like clips from episodes and it was just like very cringy cringy. I don't think she's naturally a talk show host, but I would say Kris Jenner's main sort of businesses are her children's businesses. She owns portions of pretty much all of them, but I did want to just mention her quickly because I think it's important to note that a lot of the sort of scams that came out of the Kardashian Jenner family, all of them lead back to Kris. Like, at the end of the day, everyone is responsible for their own actions in it, but Kris definitely prides herself on being sort of the leader of the family and the leader of all of these careers. So I do think she's an important person to mention first. The next Kardashian that I would like to talk about is Kourtney Kardashian, who is the oldest of the family. Kourtney actually has not done a ton of business ventures on her own. Most of the business stuff that she was a part of was actually just sort of collectively with her sisters. So she was never really one starting her own companies or starting her own business. I think if you watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians and you kind of have kept up with the family at all, it's pretty apparent and evident that Kourtney's real focus has always been on just kind of being a mother. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But basically she's only had a couple of real serious business ventures. There's been a few business stuff that she's done like for the show. Like she talked about how her and her ex-partner Scott Disick were going to be starting like a home flipping thing and she was going to be like the interior designer for it, but that never really panned out. Kourtney's main business venture, which I would argue of scams on this list, this is pretty high up there. Kourtney founded Poosh. Poosh is actually the nickname for Kourtney's daughter Penelope, and she named this sort of lifestyle brand after it. Poosh is basically, the best way I can describe it is it's very similar to Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. It's basically a business to discuss lifestyle products. Like it's a website that produces content, like articles that talk about how like you should refrain from having sex with your partner, and like kind of like Cosmopolitan magazine meets Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. Like that's the gist of it. I think the whole business model of Poosh is that all of these really high-end wellness brands basically advertise on the website. Like they pay Poosh to promote their products, which I don't necessarily think is that shady or bad, except most of this stuff is just like stupidly overpriced. Like there's a $39 set of scrunchies on the website and a $200 duvet cover, a $79 candle, and most importantly, they actually did a collaboration with a brand called DMH Aesthetics where they made an anti-aging LED light shield mask that is $200. So yeah, it also seems like Poosh is now starting to branch out into the sort of self-help world, because actually in a couple of weeks at the end of February, they're going to be hosting a virtual event called Poosh Wellness. Tickets are $350 and it's basically just a virtual, it feels like an MLM conference, I'm not gonna lie. It gives me really strong Rachel Hollis MLM vibes. I know that it's not really an MLM, but I think the whole point is just to talk about your wellness and talk about self-care and talk about how you can like use all of these really expensive products to become a better person. Like I think that's the gist. I just think it's sort of, there's no real effort, I think. Like it's literally just them utilizing the platform that Kourtney Kardashian has to make money off of really expensive wellness brands. Because that's all this is. If this was like a random person who lived in Idaho recommending you a $200 LED face shield, nobody would buy that. Like nobody really would care about these recommendations if they weren't coming from allegedly Kourtney Kardashian. I'm really interested in the fact that they're venturing out into these sort of like self-help virtual conference things. I'm really curious to see how that's gonna go for them, and I'm really curious to see what's gonna come of that. I can't wait to watch video reviews of that conference, because I feel like when websites like this start putting on events, it can either go really well for them or it can go horribly, horribly wrong very quickly. So I'm definitely curious to see how they expand into that sort of realm of the self-help and wellness genre. The biggest criticism for Poosh thus far, especially after reading a bunch of articles written about the website, is honestly that it just seems tone deaf. They have a lot of articles that I think could definitely be considered problematic about like how to look good naked and like how to get skinny and like all of these things that are kind of promoting this toxic ideology around self-love and your body and weight loss. I don't really consider Poosh an uplifting or like versatile platform. I think it's really, really good for very very rich moms on the Upper East Side or Calabasas. I feel like that's their target audience. And they probably make a good amount of money from them, but I don't think that this is a brand that was made for like everyday people. I don't even know that everyday people know about it, other than the fact that maybe if they follow Kourtney Kardashian, they've seen her post about it. So yeah, I would say that while this brand isn't the most offensive of the Kardashian sisters, it's definitely the laziest. And it's also definitely just sort of weird. And I don't think this is necessarily, no, actually, you know what? I kind of think this is a scam. I feel like promoting really overpriced shit to your audience just because you have that name and like taking a commission from that is kind of a scam. Like, it gives me very strong like beauty gurus in 2015 having never opened a Morphe palette, but just talking about how pretty it looks and pushing their code. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting from the Kourtney Kardashian Poosh website. The next sister I want to talk about is Khloe. Khloe too has not had a ton of solo business ventures. She's definitely done more stuff with her sisters instead of launching her own companies, but her most notable company that she has launched has been Good American, which is basically a denim apparel brand that has expanded into shirts and shoes and bathing suits, and it's just a general apparel brand at this point. Good American launched in 2016 and was co-founded by Emma Grade. I hope I'm saying that right. And they actually broke a lot of records when they launched. They made over $1 million on the launch day in sales, which shattered the world record for the largest denim apparel launch in history. So the brand right off the bat was very successful. And I have to say, the Kardashian Jenner family businesses, there are two that stand out to me as actually being decent in terms of quality for the product you're getting, and Good American is one of them. Biggest appeal to them is that they are incredibly size inclusive, and they're really making sure that they're catering to people of all different shapes and sizes, which is really hard to come by in a jean brand. I will say, when Good American launched, Khloe was definitely criticized for the price point of her jeans, and I can definitely see why some of them are as expensive as like $150. While I agree with the criticism of the pricing, because I do think that is a lot of money, it's also been reported and looked into that a lot of the actual putting together process of her jeans happens in LA. They're not made in inhumane working conditions, which oftentimes that does lead to price increases. Her jeans go from a 00 to a size 32 and have been largely praised, especially in sort of the fashion blogger sphere of the internet. And the business has grown even more successful in recent years. It's really made a name for itself. I do question how actually in the business Khloe Kardashian is, just because you never really see her talking about like working on the brand. She really just focuses solely on the promotion of the brand. Like, she posts stuff on Instagram about the brand, or she'll be doing photo shoots with the brand, but it's really unclear how much of the day-to-day operations she actually does. Again, similarly to Poosh, I think that Good American, especially because it says co-founded by Khloe Kardashian, so she is not the sole founder of this company. I do think that she probably does not have a ton of influence on day-to-day operations, nor really wanted to when signing up for this. I think it is another situation where she kind of just put her name on something and like helps out with marketing and promo and stuff. Honestly, I think it's really funny that one of the best Kardashian Jenner brands, as far as like it's made ethically, the jeans are actually very good. They're probably a little bit overpriced, but you're not actually getting something shitty for what you're paying, like something like Kylie Swim, which we're going to talk about. I do think it's funny though that it's the brand that like Khloe has very little involvement in, I think. I do think it's important to note though that this brand has not been scandal free. I actually do not think there's been a single Kardashian Jenner brand that has been scandal free. They were sued by Blue Dazzled, which is an LA company, who basically claimed that Good American ripped off their bedazzled bodysuits. I'll put the side by side right here of the two different bodysuits. While this brand was a more indie clothing brand, they had had a ton of famous clients like Beyonce and Mariah Carey. Khloe and her team actually borrowed pieces from this brand for her to like be promoted in, and then a few months later these same exact bodysuits were put into production for Good American. So it's pretty blatantly obvious that these were ripped off and copied. Whether that was actually Khloe who like had the idea to rip them off or not doesn't really matter, because either way someone's hard work was plagiarized. But they did come to a private settlement. Nobody really knows what the amount was in 2021, so the case has been settled for now. You're gonna see kind of a consistent theme throughout this video of the Kardashian Kardashians blatantly plagiarizing particularly smaller indie brands and especially Black-owned brands. So next we're moving on to Kim, who I feel like has had sort of the most solo business ventures, and I think the main reason for that is because number one, she's obviously one of the more popular Kardashian sisters. I feel like especially in the beginning, the big reason the show even started was because of her. So she had a lot of like smaller businesses that she did when she was starting out. Now, obviously she has a lot of bigger businesses that she does. One of the biggest sort of business ventures Kim used to get into, especially in the kind of early 2010s, was perfumes. I feel like the perfume era of Kim Kardashian, and I'm not talking about the new like KKW fragrances, I'm talking about like the old school Kim Kardashian perfumes that you could find at like Walmart that were basically just like very overpriced body spray. I feel as if that era like was very much Kim sort of trying to mimic her peers. I think that Paris Hilton at that time was obviously having a ton of success in making really, really successful fragrances. Same thing with like Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears. And I think Kim wanted to sort of get in on that and thought that would be the easiest way to just start making extra money. So she had a ton of perfumes. There's really been no scandals with these perfumes other than I think a lot of people think that they smelled kind of bad. But I think most perfumes in the early 2010s that were like celebrity perfumes smelled bad, except Taylor Swift's Wonderland perfume, the one in the purple bottle. I wore that every single day in high school. It's like the only perfume that I would ever wear. I loved that stuff. I still love that stuff. I stand by that. It smells amazing. Kim did a lot of that. And then in 2014, Kim launched one of her biggest projects to date, which was the Kim Kardashian Hollywood game. I feel like this was at a time in 2014 when mobile games were very popular in general. And basically, if you've ever played like Stories, which is a mobile gaming app where you like pick sort of different paths you want to take through this different storyline, that's basically what the Kim Kardashian Hollywood game is. The app actually still exists and people still use it pretty regularly, but when it first launched, it was actually very, very popular. Now, this game was actually incredibly popular. In the very first year that it launched, it made over $200 million in revenue, and people were really, really enjoying it. However, the company that made the game and Kris Jenner were actually sued in 2015, just a year after the release, for allegedly stealing the idea of the game from someone who came in and pitched something freakily similar. Basically, a gaming manufacturer called Kung Fu Partners worked on the game and did a lot of development for the game, and then was told that the project was never going to happen. But then a year later, the video game came out and it was basically the same thing that they had been working on. They sued the actual developer and Kris Jenner for $10 million. Now, this lawsuit was settled out of court and the charges were dropped, which again seems to kind of be a theme for the Kardashians getting into plagiarism scandals. They just sort of buy people out for those who have complaints against them. But other than that, other than the blatantly stealing other people's work thing, this game was very successful. There were some issues that came about because the whole point of the game is that you meet like actual celebrities and you meet the Kardashians. And they did document on their show that Khloe and Kourtney were going to be featured in the game, but they weren't happy with the royalty deals that they would be getting for using their likeness. So it seems like there was some issues with trying to get everybody sort of on board with this game. However, it still works. You can still play it. And overall, I think this was definitely a really interesting business venture. I think that this got Kim Kardashian a lot of attention in the business world when she launched this, because it was very, very different from anything any other socialite at the time was doing. Now, in 2015, Kim also launched the Kimoji app, which this was dumb. You could basically download a browser extension for your phone and it would give you, instead of normal emojis, you could also have the option of doing Kim-mojis, which was just like a peach or Kim dancing or her flipping her hair. She turned this into merchandise. Like, she made bathing suits with peaches all over them, made shirts with her little Kimoji thing on it. Like, she capitalized the hell out of this one. And again, I don't necessarily think this was a scam. I just think it was kind of like an interesting business move that Kim got so into the tech world. Sort of 2014, 2015 era, she was like really, really in it. It's not really clear how much creative control she has over any of these projects now. And even though the Kim Kardashian Hollywood game still can be played, I have not seen her talk about it in a while. I think she only really posts about it on holidays if there's like some special thing that the game is doing. doing, but it seems like as far as storyline and development, she doesn't really have a lot to do with the game anymore. And also in 2015, Kim made her first coffee table book. It was called Selfish, and honestly, I thought that this was, if you look at sort of the grand scheme of the Kardashians, this is definitely a very on-brand thing. It was literally just a book of selfies that Kim Kardashian had taken. Like, that was it. It was just a book of her selfies. Some of the selfies had captions of like where she was. Some of them were with her family. I think it's really interesting that this book did so well, mostly because I could see it working well for a celebrity who maybe wasn't as open about their personal life and like maybe wasn't as sort of like always posting selfies of themselves or wasn't always posting pictures of their life or didn't have like a literal television crew following around their life at all times. It's interesting that this book was so successful for Kim, given that people really knew so much about her already and could literally just scroll her Instagram if they wanted to see these pictures. It was kind of marketed as like a photo album thing. I think it's just weird because you could literally just go on her Instagram and scroll and see like 90% of the same photos. But anyway, that was another business venture she did, and that was very successful for her. Now in 2017 is when we started seeing Kim launching some of her bigger brands that she has today. The first one was KKW Beauty. She launched this brand after Kylie Cosmetics had launched, which we're going to talk about Kylie Cosmetics in a minute. But I think a lot of people just saw this brand as sort of a blatant money grab from Kim. It was obvious that she really saw the success that her sister had in putting out makeup, and so she was kind of trying to just jump on that bandwagon. Her first product was a dual-ended contour stick and like a little contour brush thing, and number one, the brush looked like a dildo, so that was just first and foremost. But second of all, the contour stick got pretty roasted in reviews, mostly because it was like literally no product. Like there was a lot of issue when the product first launched because there was such little product that you could really only contour your face like 1 or 2 times with the amount of product before the stick just literally broke off. Her launches since the initial contour sticks have definitely been slightly better. Like she's never launched something again that had like literally no product in it for an obscene amount of money. And I think this first initial launch really gave a bad first impression for the brand. People already thought that this was very much a money grab from Kim Kardashian, and with the products being such shit quality right off the bat, I think that just kind of affirmed the notion that this was not something she took super seriously and was more so trying to capitalize off of her built-in audience. Since that launch, the brand hasn't had too many other huge scandals. They mostly just keep putting out the same exact brown neutral eyeshadow palette and lipstick combos. And as far as I can tell, the brand is successful. She actually sold a 20% stake of her brand in June of 2020 to Coty, which is a massive parent company, for $200 million. But I would argue that this brand, especially out of all of Kim Kardashian's projects, is just sort of the least interesting or good. Like the makeup has never been particularly amazing or raved about. However, also in 2017, under the umbrella of KKW Beauty, Kim launched KKW Fragrances, which honestly, this brand has not really gotten into too many scandals per se. Like the only real drama I could find is stuff to do with Taylor Swift, and it's like stupid. That's like the only real scandal KKW Fragrances has gotten in. The interesting thing about this brand is that Kim definitely first started expanding the brand by collaborating with her family members. Like she's done multiple collections with all of her sisters, and they all have sort of a different vibe and a different shape. She's done collaborations with artists and fashion designers. I think the one thing KKW Fragrance has going for it, they do come out with very interesting packaging. Like the products are in very cool, aesthetically pleasing, nice packaging, which I think really appeals to people. However, I've smelled some of these in store and they always smell bad. The biggest complaints that I've seen about her perfumes is just that the amount of product you're actually getting for the price point is actually extremely overpriced. It definitely puts it at a higher end perfume price point, and a lot of reviews I've seen argue that it doesn't have the same sort of interesting or intricate notes that would make it a luxury or designer perfume. But regardless, that's kind of the main criticism of that brand. And then probably one of her most notable and famous brands is Skims. Skims definitely started with a lot of drama. When Kim first announced the brand, she announced that the name of the brand was going to be Kimono, which obviously was very offensive and culturally appropriative. She definitely did take that criticism well and like understood why people were upset, and ultimately decided to delay her launch and change the name of the brand to Skims. However, I just really struggle with that one. I'm confused about the amount of groupthink and lack of diversity there must be in the Kardashian businesses for not a singular person to be like, hey guys, this is kind of appropriative. Like, it's just nutty to me that that even went through. And so far, Skims has actually been Kim's pretty much most successful business. She's constantly coming out with a bunch of different collections. She just collaborated with the United States Olympics and did a collaboration with them. And the other interesting thing about Skims is that it is very size and also skin inclusive. It has a bunch of different shades for all of her different shapewear and bras and underwear and things like that. It's also got a fair amount of criticism. A lot of people say that the sizing for especially the shapewear is just absolutely absurd. People will order like a size up and it comes and it's like this big. And like, yes, it's supposed to stretch, but it's also not supposed to suffocate you. There have been some viral TikToks posted just talking about people's experience with Skims, their customer service, having order issues, having products come that are in their right size but don't fit them at all. So this brand is by no means perfect. But again, I was talking before about how I think there are two brands from the Kardashian Jenners that are actually good quality for the most part, and I think those two brands would be Good American, which is Khloe's brand, and also I would put Skims in this category. And it's obviously very monetarily successful because they sold out of all of their stock in a matter of minutes on launch day, making over $2 million in one day, which is fucking nuts. The launch days that the Kardashians have are absolutely lunacy. They're like one of the few people that pull in all these crazy numbers and break all of these records for all of their businesses. Speaking of breaking records, let's talk about Kylie Jenner. Now, I just want to say super quick, I am going to do an entire video talking about Kylie Cosmetics. I have an evolution of Kylie Cosmetics planned for next month. So there's probably going to be a couple things in here that are like a little bit skipped over, but that's really just because there is so much shit with Kylie Cosmetics. There's so many scandals, there's so many things that have happened, so many plagiarism accusations, order issues, quality of product issues, like there's a ton of that. So I'm just gonna give kind of a brief overview of Kylie Cosmetics. Kylie Cosmetics was founded in 2014 and launched their first 3 lip kits in 2015. Kylie claims that she got the idea to make this makeup brand when a lot of people were really fascinated by her lips. If you don't remember, back in like 2014, 2015, Kylie's lips were talked about a lot. She was still 17 years old at the time, and it seemed like she had lip injections, and there was all the speculation about did she get them, did she not get them? Obviously she got them. I don't know how that was even a question. People were like, oh no, she's just overlining her lips. No, she got lip injections, which is like fine, but don't lie about it. Anyway, got lip injections, and people were always just really fascinated by what lipstick she was wearing. She said that she noticed if she shouted out a lipstick that she had been wearing recently, it would sell out almost immediately. So she kind of wanted to like cut out the middleman and just start creating her own lipsticks. The very interesting thing about Kylie Cosmetics is that when it first launched, they only had a couple of thousand units of each lipstick. It was about 5,000 units per lip kit, and the lip kits were about $30 a piece. It was basically just kind of a trial run to see if there would be any interest in the brand, and they sold out in seconds. Like, the craze for Kylie lip kits, I cannot express enough how insane this was. There were articles telling people the best way to get these lip kits when they launched because they would come out and be gone in like 3 seconds. It was madness, and they were getting really good reviews for the most part. Like, most YouTube influencers were really hyping them up, mostly because it was Kylie Jenner. Like, honestly, it was probably just mostly because it was her, because looking back, they were dry as fuck. I had some. That was like my first lipstick ever, actually. It was a Kylie Cosmetics liquid lip kit. She's also done kind of similar to Kim with her perfume line. She's done a lot of different collaborations with basically every member of her family, including her, like, I think at the time her daughter was like a few months old. She did like a collaboration with her newborn child for her makeup brand. She's done collaborations with everyone, okay? Now, there was scandals right when these products launched. Kylie's initial promo picture was a picture of like sort of chrome lips that had like a dripping metallic thing down them. And it was pretty obvious that this design was copied by an artist named Vlada. And just a couple of years after creating the brand, in November of 2019, Kylie actually sold 51%, so a majority stake of Kylie Cosmetics to, again, Coty for $600 million. So no longer the CEO of her company. It does seem that she still has some creative input, although I would argue, and I don't know if this is just the skeptic in me, but I don't think she really does much for Kylie Cosmetics, and I don't really think she ever kind of has. I'm sure she helped a lot in the beginning with like picking colors, but I think at a certain point it just very much became her team doing everything for her, and she just became more of the face of the brand and the company. They still put out new collections all the time, and they always have very interesting collaborations. Like, they just did a collaboration with Nightmare on Elm Street, but the brand is nowhere near as successful successful as it was back in 2014, 2015, and there's nowhere near the same amount of hype that the brand used to have. Now in 2019, Kylie expanded upon Kylie Cosmetics by creating Kylie Skin. This brand was pretty roasted right off the bat, mostly for the inclusion in her initial line of a walnut face scrub that she claimed she used every single day. I actually learned this through skincare Twitter, but you're not supposed to use abrasive skin scrubs every single day. So her saying that was probably a lie. There were also just really comically bad videos of her pretending to use the skincare like she used it every day when she obviously doesn't. Like, Kylie does not use her own stuff on a daily basis. I would bet pretty much every dollar in my bank account that she does not actually use those products every single day. There's no way in hell. This Kylie Skin brand has grown and expanded into its own sort of like sister brand to Kylie Cosmetics. They have a ton of body lotions and shower stuff. Based on all of the reviews I watched from skincare YouTube, they said that the brand wasn't horrific. It just was very, very basic formulas, and that it was very overpriced for what you were actually getting from the brand. In the past couple of years, Kylie has also launched 2 other brands, both under the sort of Kylie umbrella. She has Kylie Baby, which is essentially just like bubble bath stuff for kids. She sells like swaddles and bubble baths and shampoo and conditioners. And then the other main brand that Kylie just started was Kylie Swim, which has been brutally roasted. Kylie Swim launched in September of 2017, and even though a lot of the pieces sold out very quickly, because when Kylie posted all the promo pics, they were definitely very aesthetically pleasing, it was criticized for a number of reasons. Number one, people were very, very confused about why it was released after summer. A lot of people assumed it was something to do with kind of COVID causing production issues, but either way, it was just a weird time to launch a swimwear company. And also, the reviews for Kylie Swim were terrible. The bathing suits were horrible. They were way too small. The brand also was not size inclusive in any way, shape, or form, and the material was incredibly see-through and poorly put together. It was so see-through that you could see the tag that was embossed on the bathing suit through the back of the bathing suit. There has not been a new launch since all of this criticism came out. I would say that this sort of failure of Kylie Swim, it really points to people just kind of being over the Kardashian business. Like, I would say that this is a step in the right direction of people being sick of it. Because when Kylie launched Kylie Cosmetics, even though those products were very subpar and nothing special, they still got a fuck ton of hype from everyone just because it was something that Kylie Jenner had done. Whereas now, I think the sort of magic of the Kylie Jenner effect has worn off, and people aren't just blindly praising everything she does. And I don't think the Kardashians were really ready for that in any capacity. Like, all of them. I don't think they were ready for that. Because I think they're very used to putting out products and people just loving it because of who they are. Whereas now they are starting to see public backlash from producing poorly made, terrible products, which I think is a very positive thing to be happening. The final Kardashian Jenner sister to talk about is Kendall Jenner, who obviously her big business venture has been very recent. It was in 2021, and that was her tequila company. The brand is called 818 and has a couple of different variations of tequila. And honestly, I would say this brand is one of the worst ones. It's clearly appropriative of Mexican culture, not just because it's a tequila. I know there are other celebrities who have made tequilas before, but the promo pictures that she shot for this campaign were shot in Mexico, and in the campaign, she's wearing clothing that is associated with the Mexican culture, and also is just like riding a horse through a field. Just screams appropriation, all of it. She hasn't really done any other businesses other than that though. 818's kind of like her big first real business venture, because that she did like by herself. Now we're gonna quickly get into some of the stuff that they've done together as groups. First, we have Kendall and Kylie, who have done multiple projects together. Probably one of their biggest scandals was when they sold $125 t-shirts for their clothing line that they had in PacSun with Tupac, The Doors, Biggie Smalls, and Ozzy Osbourne on them. Actually sued by the photographer of these photos and had to remove them from their clothing line, which again, I can't stress enough how often copyright infringement or plagiarism comes into play with the Kardashians. It's like ludicrous how often this happens. Kendall and Kylie also wrote an adult novel. They didn't write that novel, I'm sorry. They didn't write that at all. They literally just had a ghostwriter and slapped their name on top of it. I'm not gonna lie, for a lot of videos I do a lot of research. I was not gonna read this fucking book for this video. It was not happening. But it got horrible reviews, obviously. And the main reason people think that it sold anything at all was simply because they were younger at the time and had a very built-in younger fan base who were going to buy whatever they put out. out. Now, Kourtney, Kim, and Khloe have had some more interesting business ventures. In 2010, they launched what I would argue is their most notable scam, which was the Kardashian card. It was supposed to be a prepaid credit card that was produced in collaboration with MasterCard. Unfortunately, the card came with a ton of fees, which really was not a great look, especially for their target audience of like teens and young adults. And less than a month after the card was put into production, was completely closed down. So this was just an absolute fail and scam in general. The Kardashians are trying to sell you a credit card, probably too good to be true, probably is not something you want to look into. But besides that, they've had a lot of more commercial failures in business. They actually launched a clothing collection with Sears. They actually launched a clothing collection with Sears in 2011, and the clothing line was very poorly received. It came out that most of the clothes were made in sweatshops and were made in unethical conditions. And on top of that, in 2013, the line was doing so bad that they just started putting everything on sale and slashing the prices until it sold out and eventually closed. I think it's really interesting to see the contrast between 2011 Kardashians and like 2020 Kardashians. There was just so much less interest in what they were doing, and they were not taken seriously in the slightest, for good reason, because they were doing all of these really shady, shitty business practices. They launched a brand called Chroma Beauty in 2012, and nobody ever really talks about this brand anymore. If you Google Kardashian makeup brand now, most of what comes up is like Kylie Cosmetics or KKW. But not only did the brand do absolutely terrible, like it couldn't sell products and the products themselves were terrible quality, there was also a ton of lawsuits. Chroma with a K, but a brand that had the name of Chroma with a C sued them for copyright infringement. This copyright lawsuit and also just the brand doing terribly, Chroma sort of evolved into Kardashian Beauty, which is what I think most people kind of remember because it was a drugstore brand. It was like decent quality. None of it was like particularly amazing, but it was an influencer brand, so it did okay. The biggest problem with Kardashian Beauty was that it was around for actually a decent amount of time. It didn't close until around 2016, but basically the three sisters just were like sick of doing it and weren't happy with how much money they were making and weren't happy with the brand itself, so they just like stopped posting about it, and then they were sued because you can't do that. The final scam of the Kardashians is one that involves all five of them, and that is the Kardashian App. In 2015, all of the Kardashian sisters and Kris Jenner announced that they were going to be launching their own individual Kardashian apps. The app was basically supposed to give you like an inside look at their lives, and you would basically pay a $2.99 subscription fee for each individual app. So if you wanted to watch like Kim and Khloe's, it was gonna be $6 a month for both of those because they were all separate. They weren't on the same platform. And they made a really huge deal about these apps. It was actually interesting. Kourtney didn't launch her app with her sisters just because hers wasn't gonna be ready in time, but they all made these individual apps, and the point was to post their own individual content. For example, Kylie posted like makeup tutorials and closet or house tours. Khloe actually had a series that got her in a lot of trouble called Khloe CD, where she just sort of like talked about how she liked to organize things, basically stereotyping what OCD is. It's not really clear if she actually has OCD, so I think a lot of people have felt weird about talking about this, but I think that's just an important point to note. A lot of these series that they were doing were just kind of problematic. The apps in general definitely were a scam because after a few months of doing this, they just like stopped posting content. Kind of like a Patreon almost, but like for mega celebrities. And with the subscription service, you were supposed to get certain types of content and certain amount of content every month, and they just kind of stopped posting on them for like a long time. Like Kendall went months without posting on hers or doing anything on hers, but was still charging people the subscription fee every single month. And basically after kind of ghosting and sporadically posting on their apps, they announced that they would be closing down in 2019, and they took them down from the App Store, so you can't buy them anymore. Overall, I think that was a really weird idea, just in general. Like it was, again, it's like Patreon, but you're giving billionaires more money to see like behind the scenes content. That is basically all of the Kardashian business ventures, both successful and failed. I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this topic. What do you think about the Kardashians in general? I am really curious to know what you think of Bree's video because I know she's going to be covering a lot of really interesting stuff over there. I think that the evolution of the Kardashians' business practices is super interesting to see, mostly because they still definitely just do a lot of shady shit. Like it's definitely a little bit better, probably because they can't get away with it the same way they did, but they're still constantly being accused of plagiarism and copying other brands and stealing from other brands, stealing from smaller Black designers like constantly. Have you bought from any of these brands? Like, do you remember buying from any of these brands and having a positive or negative experience? Just let me know down below. I'm really curious to know your thoughts. And yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I know it was a little bit different from what I normally do because I normally focus more on like influencer stuff, but I thought it would be a really cool idea to just kind of unpack some of the crazy business ventures they've been a part of. Sorry if you can hear my dog sniffling in the background. He's in here now. I love you guys so much. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just like, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and my podcast and vlog channel will be linked down below, along with my social justice spotlight that you can go check that out. And Bree's video will be linked down there. Please go check her out and support her video. I think she's an amazing channel, does a lot of amazing commentary, and I'm really, really happy and excited that she was willing to do this with me. So thanks, Bree. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!